Welcome to Traveling Oracle, the magical podcast, where we talk energetics, spirituality, and how you can use this etheric knowledge to drastically change, transform, and up-level all areas of your life. Are you ready for the glow up? Let's go. Hello, my loves, and welcome back to another episode of Traveling Oracle, the magical podcast. It is a beautiful, is it Tuesday? Wednesday. Y'all, ever since these ceremonies, I experienced time in such a different way. I used to be very, very aware of not the time, but the things that I've done throughout the day. Now I find that I'm so present. I hear my little doggy neighbor barking. Anyway, I'm so present. I'm so in the moment that sometimes I can't even remember what I did this morning because I'm so in this moment right now in what I am doing. It's like, wait, how did I even get here? Like yesterday I walked to the park because, I've had to be more in nature now. Like I basically go to the park every day. I might skip one day and that day I try to make it up by doing something else extra. But I got to the park and I was laying on my back on the grass. And then I opened my eyes. I was like, wait, how did I even get here? Like, I couldn't even remember the walk over here. I couldn't remember what I did in the morning. It took me some effort. Then I was like, oh, okay. I made myself some coffee. I did this. I did that. And yeah, this is how I got here. So I'm noticing that I'm deeply experiencing the now, the present, which is a very important thing because the present is all you actually have. And it's kind of strange because you understand as well that the present is the convergence of the past and the future. Those 2 points meet in the present. So the present moment is literally the moment of creation. It's literally the moment where all that is and all that isn't and will be also is, even though it isn't. I know that doesn't make sense, but it also makes a lot of sense. It's the 0 points. If you're interested in sacred geometry, Gaia has some lovely documentaries on sacred geometry, and they talk about the 0 point, the point of creation, the point where nothing exists, but all potential of what everything can be exists in that non-existence. It's absolutely crazy. I love it. These are the things in life that absolutely light me up. Let me take a sip of my coffee, y'all, because I made some coffee. I'm sitting in my bed. I got my tarot cards. I'm all comfy and I am ready for this episode. I'm curious to know what you guys do when you're listening to my podcast. I always picture you like sipping coffee and relaxing, but I'm pretty sure some people are cleaning their houses or like walking somewhere in transit. I'm going to put a poll on this and I'll be really happy if you guys participate in the poll because I really want to know, because I'm a person who I picture things. Like if I'm speaking, I have an image in my head, or if I'm listening to someone speak, I have an image in my head. And I'm like, is the image that I have correct or not? I'm going to quickly post some cards for kind of like a daily message for you guys. And I'm going to pause and invite all the spiritual beings that travel with me for my good to come into this space and help me to channel the messages that are going to be helpful for my listeners. Thank you so much. All right, let's see. Card number 1. This one. The Chariot reversed. Let me pull an oracle card as well, Spirit. 2 dropped out. Trust your path, warrior woman. I've never even seen that one. And the initiation. So real quick, let's start with the Chariot. Some of you are going through a very slow time in your life. Nothing is moving. You're not going forward. You're not going backward. Nothing is improving, but also nothing is getting worse. You're just sitting. Some of you, it feels like you're just in slow-mo, kind of like when you're dreaming and you're trying to yell something out and nothing is coming out of your mouth, or you're trying to run in your dream, but It's like you're running in slow-mo. That's what your life feels like. But Spirit is saying you're being slowed down for a reason. When your life is fast-paced, you don't have the ability to see the lessons. You don't have the ability to tune in with your body and your soul because you're so busy. You're being slowed down for a reason. Go inward. What's happening on the inside? The answer is always to go inward because you contain the world on the inside. And so when your inside is stable, when your inside is strong, the world around you reflects that. Somebody has not been able to go inside, so Spirit has said, let me help you out. Everything stop. Everything freeze. Go inward. I'm going to leave that right there. Warrior woman, have you answered your deepest calling? That's the oracle card. The other one is trust your path. If you knew you would be supported, what would you do? Y'all. People who listen to podcasts like these are people who have a certain mission in life. If you're listening to a podcast like this, you're an awakened being going through multiple awakenings, and you're awakening to the fact that you have a mission in life. And don't freak out. Some people are like, oh my God, a mission. I don't want to be one of those persons who wear all white and go to the forest to meditate and like have no like real life. You don't have to do any of that. Your mission is actually the desires of your soul. Anything you desire to do with your soul, you desire it because it's a part of your mission. I know something that came through really strongly for me this week was the fact that I'm a very spiritual being. I mean, we all are. But I've awakened to a lot of my spiritual gifts, spiritual abilities, my desire to be with the spiritual world. And I'm awakening to the fact that even though that is true, it doesn't mean that I have to go teach in some mystical cave. It doesn't mean I have to go be a yoga teacher. It doesn't mean I have to go do all these it doesn't mean I have to do these very specific spiritual jobs because I've awakened spiritually. It can just mean that I continue my life, but with a new awareness. I've also awakened to the fact that a part of my mission in life is to be as successful as I can be, is to live as luxurious a life as I can live, and to be that beacon of this is what you can be, to be that beacon of this is what spirituality can look like, to be that beacon of, oh my gosh, she didn't start out there, but look, she's living a life that she loves. She's living in luxury. She's living in just reveling in being alive. And that contradicts a lot of what spiritual people will tell you. Well, not all of them, but a lot of them will be like, no, you have to be a minimalist. You have to live in a jungle. You have to, once you've awakened, you have to answer the call to be a teacher, and like, you must be done this. Anyone who tells you it must be done this way don't know jack shit about what they're talking about. There is no mold. There is no particular blueprint that every person has to follow. Actually, it's the opposite. So whatever is on your soul, and here's the thing, there are people who are called to be that type of spiritual person, that type of minimalist, that type of going to live in the jungle. And guess what? That's what their soul desires. They're people, they want nothing other than that. If that's not what you want, that's not what's written on your soul. I'm gonna leave that right there. And I'll repeat what the card said. Have you answered your deepest calling? What is your soul calling you to do? Something that has called me for quite some time since I was a child that I had pushed aside was fashion. I love fashion design. I love creating pieces and wearing art. And I'm recently being reconnected with that love because I've understood now that my soul is here to teach, to connect people back to their divine spirit and their divine essence. But my soul is also here to express itself. And the way it wants to express itself is through art and fashion design. And that's what I'm going to be doing in this area of my life. In this era of my life, Akil is reborn as not just a teacher, but an artist. What is your deepest calling? If you knew you would be supported, what would you do? Boom. Let's close off that section. Things for you to think about. So let's get back to the title at hand, the ayahuasca ceremonies. There's so much information, and I'm going to pick up at a place where I forgot to mention in the first episode because there's just so much. So if you're listening to this and you haven't heard part 1, please go back to part 1 because this is a continuation of that. When you're deep into these ceremonies, if it's your first time, there's a sort of ego death that happens that is extremely scary. And I want to also preface this by saying not everyone's experience is the same. I've noticed a pattern for me. Anytime I drink, once it starts out nice and fairy, and because it's coming on. But once it hits, boom, it's like a dump truck ran over me, just like bam. And the first phase for me is experiencing that death. I've been shown that I have a pattern of control. I need to be in control, especially of myself, especially of my own being, especially of my own stuff. And what ayahuasca does is it removes the control from you and says, trust and allow me to show you what you need to see. Trust and allow me to take over and show you the patterns you need to release. You have to release and relinquish control in order to see the bigger picture. You have to release and relinquish control in life in order to see the path that's been planned for you. This is a big, big lesson that a lot of us are going through in life right now. We've been taught that in order to get the things that you want in life, you must be in control to every single minutia of detail you must control. That is not so. Here is why. Your human brain can only see so far. Your human brain can only see as far as your eyes can. The soul sees all. The soul is connected to divine energy. And there is an intelligent life force. Think of the life force that pumps your blood. Think of the life force that prompts your lungs to fill up and your lungs to depress. At no point in life have you ever had to sit up and say, heart, remember to beat. Heart, you better beat now. Lungs, you better breathe now. There's no point in life where you have to direct these functions. There is an intelligence that directs them for you. That same intelligence is the one that directs your path to the things that you want on the scale that is planned for you to have it. Now, I hear somebody saying, so what about free will? You can fight it. You can fight it. It's your choice to follow it or not. But I assure you, if you fight it, you will live a very small, a very incomplete, unhappy, tiny, minuscule version of the things you want and the life you want to live. If you want out of your life to have a beautiful 5-bedroom home with a nice garden view, I assure you that life wants to give you a 10-bedroom home by the seaside that's worth much more than your 5-bedroom. Whatever it is that your human brain can conceive that's best for you, Spirit wants to give you something grander, more fulfilling, and even bigger than your wildest dreams can dream up, is the best way for me to put it. And so ayahuasca makes you exercise relinquishing that control. And for me, it is a struggle every time. So the first part of my ceremonies is always, this is too much. I can't do this because she's trying to take over and I'm fighting her. So much so that I told you guys in the last episode that it started out when I started, I had blindfolds on. And so the pictures start to come and the patterns start to form and you start to see the things. And then at some point it just gets more intense and I'm like, this is too much. And so my brain tells me, take off these blindfolds, open your eyes. Let's look at reality so that we can find an anchor point, because what's happening in your brain is way too much. So I would take off my blindfolds and I look around, and then I'm like, shit, there is no anchor point. When I opened my eyes and looked around, the room is dark, but you can tell it's not the normal dark. The facilitator doesn't look like a woman anymore. The facilitator looks like a spirit. It's the weirdest thing. I could see her white dress. When I looked at her face, there were no eyes. There was just darkness where her eyes was, but not like how you see it in the movies. I don't know how to explain it. When you look at pictures of like space, there's a darkness in space, but it's not a scary darkness. It's a almost like a dark matter, which holds potential of creation. That's what it looked like. So there were no eyes. There was just these dark circles, and her hair looked strange. I was like, shit, it's a spirit. She's a spirit. I looked around in reality. I was like, shit, reality is not reality. What am I going to do? Because the reason I took off my blindfolds was to try to anchor myself. So my brain is gone. They're into a different reality. I look around at the physical reality. Physical reality is not physical reality anymore. That's when I'm like, I have no anchor point. I have no choice. I can't find physical reality anymore. So I have to give in. So that lesson of relinquishing control is taught because you have no choice. Some of us will never relinquish control if we have a choice. So we're put in situations that give us no choice. Everything in your life goes to shit and nothing is working out. No matter what you do, it's because life is trying to strip you of the choice. So you have no other option but to relinquish control to the flow of life. And through that process, you will see that life is trying to give you something grander, something more fulfilling than what you had planned for you. And I also want to talk about what physical reality looks like in ayahuasca. When I open my eyes, picture when you go to the movies, if you go to a 3D movie and you don't wear the glasses, how strange the movie looks. That's what physical reality looks like when you take ayahuasca. And so that's how I realize you really are able to see into other dimensions, right? Because physical reality looks strange, and it's like you can touch the spiritual world. The spiritual world becomes on par with physical reality. It becomes as physical reality, because even in that space, when I looked around at the participants who were there with me, everyone was in their own world. But again, I was in a space beyond physical reality. So I could look at each person and I could see every single thing they were struggling with. I could see every single lesson that ayahuasca was teaching them at various points. There's just this knowing when you're able to tap into the spiritual realm. And also, I do believe that ayahuasca really opened my third eye. Opened is a mild way of putting it. It blasted open my third eye. My crown chakra has always been opened, but my third eye was, sometimes things would trickle through, sometimes not. It blasted it open. And so there was just this knowing, because my third eye was open and because I was immersed in that spiritual realm. I just knew all the things. Like, there's nothing that could have been hidden from me in that state. I knew it all about every person. So that was an interesting thing. Now, I want to point out that happened to me, that knowing and that third eye situation, because of where I was in my spiritual journey. You may do it and you might not be there, or you may do it and you get something way more advanced. It all depends on the state that you enter the ceremonies in. Have you been continuously, doing your spiritual practices? Are your channels clear? Are your chakras balanced? Yes or no? If it's not, then ayahuasca will spend that time clearing it out for you. If they're already clear, then ayahuasca will help you go to the next level, because she doesn't have to spend that time going through the chakras, showing you things to help you clear out the energetic imbalances in those chakras. She's going to go zoops and push you to a higher dimension, push you to higher lessons. So your experience all depends on where you are on your spiritual journey. I was at a place where I had done so much work, especially since I landed in Bali. I've been doing Kriya Yoga. I've been clearing out my body. And Kriya Yoga is something that was not on my radar until my last trip to Bali. And it's a type of yoga that really focuses on clearing out the channel of the body, doing physical movements to release the energy that's stuck in the different channels, to help you to balance your chakras through physical movement. It's a very physical practice, but it's very important because we're in a spiritual space right now that's very focused on subconscious mind and hitting things from the mind, which is very, very important. But remember, we have to be balanced in all that we do. So if you're hitting subconscious stories through the mind, and if you're clearing out your body, your energetic body, through things like EFT, etc., 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 balancing it out with a physical practice like Kriya Yoga is going to completely complete that action for you. It's going to really clear all of your channels. And so most of my channels were cleared. Most of my chakras were balanced. And so I went in there with a very clean instrument. Also, I hadn't eaten meat for like 3 weeks before that. Not because I'm like, oh, I need to stop eating meat to do this. It wasn't anything like that. I just got up one day, bought my chicken like usual, and I put the fork to my mouth with a piece of chicken in it, and I almost threw up. My body just said no. So I hadn't eaten chicken for a while, and I want to talk about the meat situation. I don't ever believe that one must be a vegetarian to be spiritual. I don't believe that. However, here are the facts. Meat is death, right? It's a dead animal. When you consume meat, you're consuming the energy of death. The energy of death is dense and it lowers the frequency of the body. If your aim for a particular period of time is to get higher in your frequency, to experience certain spiritual phenomena, then I would say cut meat out for that time if you want to achieve those higher frequencies. If all you're trying to do is live a balanced life and be happy and be still connected with spirit, eating meat will not prevent that. So it all depends on what you're trying to do at what point in time. Because right now I'm consuming meat. Why? Because I was too high. After the ceremonies, my frequency was so high, I could not relate to physical reality. I needed to come down so that I could function in the physical world. What's one of the easiest way to reduce your frequency is to eat meat. So it all depends on what you're trying to do at what point in life. Do I think I'm going to be vegetarian for my whole life at some point? Probably not. Do I think I'm going to continue eating meat for forever? Probably not. I know that there are going to be some points where I want to achieve a certain level for whatever reason. I'll cut out meat during that time, and then my body will say, hey, it's meat time. Then I'll eat meat during that time. It's all about balance. It's all about balance and what works for you and what you're trying to do and what you're being led to do in this phase of your life. So yeah, the first part, especially if you're doing it for the first time, is going to be that kind of ego death, that relinquishing of control. For me, it was a freak out, I'm always trying to hold on to control. I take off my eye thing. I look around to try and anchor myself. There is no anchor point. Then I'm like, okay, I have no choice. Then there's a lot of crying. There's a lot of crying because emotions come up of needing to be in control. There's a lot of showing me the things that are holding me back. So the first part, guys, is turmoil. Is a lot of turmoil. And my facilitator, God bless her heart, she would normally come and sit with me. She'll hold my hand while she's singing her Icarus. She'll rub my back, and she'll whisper, encouraging things to me. And through that connection with her, as in with another person, just being there for me, just holding space for me to release all of that, then I will lie down. Literally, this is what happened every time. Then I would lie down and it would feel like I'm falling. I'd feel like my spirit, I'm lying down on my back, right? So after I go through the turmoil and I realize I have to give up control, I'll lie down and then my spirit kind of falls out of the back of my body. It feels like I'm falling in darkness. And then some things happen in my mind that I just can never remember in this awake state in physical reality, but I know I'm shown some things. And then all of a sudden it's like my soul is going back up in my body, and then I'm back in my body and I open my eyes and it's a different experience. There's no more crying. There's no more tussling. There's no more pain. It's just pure bliss. Pure, complete bliss. And at this point, and I don't know if it's because I've had a Kundalini rising 2 weeks before, but every time at this point, my hand starts doing crazy mudras all over the place. Mudras here, mudras there. Some mudras I've never seen before because I'm not a person who pays attention to mudras normally. As a matter of fact, let me look up the definition of mudra. So, mudra is meaning seal, mark, or gesture in Sanskrit, and is said to intensify the effect of your yoga or meditation practice and enhance the flow of energy. Mudras were characterized by ancient yogis as energy-flowing postures meant to connect individual pranic forces with universal or cosmic force. Guys, when I tell you that after I passed that struggle for control, my hands would go crazy in these beautiful designs. It's like my hands are dancing with different mudras. I would sit up and I'm just painting the walls or painting the air around me with mudras. And it's crazy because during ayahuasca, there's so much information being downloaded. And I don't know if this is for everyone, but for me, I am a human who gets downloads normally in my normal state. In that state, the downloads were coming, bam, 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 bam. So I kept saying, all right, yes. And then I came outside of myself and I looked at myself and I realized all that people are seeing of me is me standing there, moving my hands and saying, yes, okay, all right, yes. It's crazy to think about. And then I would hear stand up and I would stand up and it's like I started to do this dance. I am in this ceremony, right? Dancing, doing these weird dances with mudras. I was standing in the middle of the room and I was painting and dancing with my hands with the mudras. And then I would hear different things, especially in both of the ceremonies. I would get instructions to do something to help the ceremony. I heard when I looked at the facilitator, remember I told you she looks like a spirit during the ceremonies. I would hear, this is your sister, help her. And then I would move my hands towards her and it's like I was trying to flow energy to her to boost her energy to facilitate or continue facilitating. Then I would hear, help this person to the left. And I would look at them and I would see exactly what they're struggling with right now. And it's like, I am not in control. My mouth just started to say, you release. And then my hand pointed at them, different mudras, and I was doing energy work on them just from my mat. I didn't go over to them. I didn't disturb them. I sat where I was and I followed the instructions of spirit. It said this one needs to release this. My hand moved to a specific mudra and I directed energy to them. Then it said this one needs to do this. My hand moved in a specific mudra and I directed energy to them. There was even one point, because I didn't throw up in the first ceremony, and those of you who've researched ayahuasca knows that vomiting is a part of the thing. I felt like I wanted to throw up, but I didn't. And at one point, I looked at the instructor and my hand formed a mudra, and I started pointing at her and moving my hand up. And all of a sudden, she started to throw up. She started to throw up, and my hands were like, more. And it was almost as if she was throwing up for me, and I was directing that energy. Let me tell you, the ayahuasca ceremony space, it's a strange space. There's a certain energy created there, and you and all the participants there are connected. There is a point where another participant, the energy seems to move through that person by making them do yoga postures or like these strange. It started out as yoga postures, but my mind knew it was an ancient form of yoga, an ancient form of putting the body in postures to channel energy. And my hands again started doing mudras towards them, and they started to move to the direction of the mudras. I don't know how to explain that. So it's almost as if my energy flowing through the mudras was directing their dance. It's the wildest thing I've ever experienced. It's the wildest thing I've ever experienced, because you're connected to everyone there and everyone there is connected to you. You see everything and you can direct things in a way that it's just like, what? So I would get up and I would do my little mudra dances, and I would hear things. It's almost as if I was channeling energy from above. I would hear, point your hand up. I would do it. Then I'd hear, point your other hand down, and I would do it. Then I hear, release and allow the flow of energy, and I would do it. And so maybe that's why at the end of these 3 ceremonies, there was so much light in my body, because I was channeling crazy levels of cosmic energy. Think of the depth of the ayahuasca trip, and I hate to call it a trip because it's so much more than that, lasts for about 5-6 hours. And for 4 or 5 of those hours, my hands were doing mudras. So that's hours of channeling light. That's hours of channeling cosmic energy. So at the end of the 3 days, my body was bursting with light. And so let's go specifically to the second ceremony. The second ceremony is quite interesting, because during the second ceremony, I had my cry, I had my, my first part of needing to relinquish control. When that was over and I was kind of resurrected in this space of pure bliss and pure connection to divine energy, everything was beautiful. The pictures, when I opened my eyes, reality had a pink hue. I could see patterns in reality. My hands were going. It was just bliss of happiness and divine energy. And it was just happiness. All of a sudden, y'all, everything, think of if you're seeing pink everywhere and beautiful lights everywhere, and then all of a sudden, everything goes to this dark hue. Like the colors start to fade. It's like something was draining the colors and the joy, and everything turned dark. Y'all, something dark walked into that room. And I'm gonna stop here and say, when you're in ceremonies like these, there's a certain energy that's generated, and it's a powerful energy that's generated, because you have a bunch of beings who are connecting to divine source. It's an energy generator in that space. When certain beings see those energies, they're attracted. They want to see what's going on. They want to see if they can harvest this energy. They want to see if they can use this energy. They're just like, what is happening? And this ceremony was done at a very energetically charged time. It was a full moon. It was equinox. And in the physical place that we were doing it, there were different celebrations for different energies. There was just so much going on, right? And I don't want to give away too much, because I don't want to give any hints to the identities of the people who were there or where it was, all of that stuff. But there was so much going on. So the energy that was created was not only ayahuascan energy and spiritual energy, it was amplified by what was happening in the skies, in the stars. There are certain things that were lining up perfectly. It was a crazy time to do that ceremony. And so something got attracted to the space, and I saw the color drain from reality, and I saw darkness take over. And all of a sudden, I began to throw up. And y'all, it isn't no normal throw up, guys. It's almost like your lungs, your kidneys, your liver. It's like everything is coming out. And this is the second ceremony, so I didn't have much to eat because you don't eat much during that time. There was nothing in my stomach, yet things were coming up. It was crazy. So it's almost as if that negative energy came in and I felt the need to purge. And it was symbolic because it was purging all the negative things from my life. It almost felt like I was purging the things from my life that were put there from lesser forces or from lower frequency forces. And as I threw up, other people around started to throw up because that negative energy was weaving into the energy that we're connected to in the space. After the throwing up, I heard Ayahuasca say, stand up and protect the space. And even the facilitator, she saw the shift and she instantly went outside. I don't know what she went to do, but I guess she had to do what she had to do to protect. I heard stand up and protect the space, protect the people that are here. So I stood up, y'all. And again, my hand went in specific mudras, and all my mouth was saying was protect, protect. And my hand was moving, protect. And my hand went up to the sky, my hand went up to the space, and I was drawing mudras in the air to protect the space. And it's crazy because from a little child, I was having spiritual gifts being unfolding in my life. And darkness was always there watching me. And I've always been afraid since I was younger. Not anymore, but since I was younger up until my first trip to Bali, I was always afraid of the things that live in the dark. And it sounds funny because it's like, is Akil afraid of the dark? No, not afraid of the dark itself. Afraid of the things that thrive in the dark, the things that are of the darkness. And in that ceremony, she told me, you have to face the things in the dark. You are powerful beyond belief because you are connected to divine energy. The things in the dark are afraid of you. So stand up and protect this space. And y'all, I had to stand up. I had to protect. I had to stand up in the face of this low vibrational dark thing that walked into the space and shift the energy from what it was shifting the energy to. Because remember, I told you the color drained out of reality. There's just darkness that descended on the space. And I had to stand up and shift that light. And I also heard, this is who you are. And I understood. I was a person who's supposed to help people to protect their energy. I am supposed to be able to channel that light and deflect that darkness. That was one of the most life-changing parts for me, being able to look darkness in the eye and not shiver. Being able to look darkness in the eye and understand that because I'm connected to light, this cannot harm me. This cannot touch me. I am out of its realm of influence. So that was a scary but beautiful, life-changing moment for me. And as I drew the mudras and as a facilitator went outside to do whatever it is that she was doing, I started to see the color come back and I felt the energy leave. And then after that, it was back to bliss, back to happiness, back to connection, back to just getting downloads and going, okay. All right, I understand. That's all I was saying. Okay, I understand, because she was just downloading. And I mentioned earlier that, at least I think I did, that I had a Kundalini rising maybe 2 weeks before. So that Kundalini energy was just pulsing through my chakras, just pulsing. And so I was super connected, and information was just flowing to me and through me. It was a beautiful space. And in every one of the ceremonies, I eventually had to go outside and stand on the grass. in particular, I had to stand and connect with the earth. And in the second ceremony, I heard the earth asking me to help. Help what? To help others understand how much we're damaging her. It's like I felt the pain of the pollution. I felt the pain of the mistreatment of the forest and of the animals. I felt the pain of the earth. I felt all of the things, the damage we were inflicting on her. I saw the energy grids. I saw all of the energy grids, the energy lines that were connected, and the shapes and the geometry they formed around the earth. It was an experience that just opened my eyes so much. When you looked at a tree, you understood every fiber, every cell, every leaf, every pattern on that tree. You understood it, you became it, you just were it. It's just a beautiful space of deep connection with the divine, deep connection with nature, deep connection with other human beings. It's just a state of oneness. Ayahuasca really, really uncovers the veil from your eyes and helps you to understand that you are one with everything. Everything is you and you are everything. Whew, what a beautiful space. And I'm going to wrap it up there for my second ceremony with ayahuasca. My next episode is going to be with on my last ceremony in ayahuasca, and that's where the frequencies of the goddesses came through strongly. So I cannot wait to share the lessons that I learned with those goddess frequencies that came through, and how that absolutely changed my life completely, in business, with money, everything. So I'll see you guys next week in my next episode.